Have you ever found yourself unable to focus on a task for hours? Or maybe an old event keeps replaying in your mind, as if it's happening all over again every single day. Maybe there are days when you feel like you can conquer the world, but just a few days later, even getting out of bed feels impossible. But if you think these are just parts of your personality, without even realizing it, you may have been living with a mental health disorder for years. Not because you're crazy, but because many mental disorders don't always look obvious. They can appear as everyday habits, emotions, or personality traits. In this video, you'll learn about some of the most common mental disorders, their signs, and how they are different from one another, helping you better understand yourself and the people around you. One of these mental disorders is post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. PTSD can develop after a person experiences or witnesses a deeply traumatic event. Its symptoms may include sudden and unwanted memories of the painful experience, nightmares, and intense anxiety that can make even simple daily activities feel difficult. But there is still a common misconception about PTSD. Many people believe that it only affects those who have experienced war or combat. However, anyone can develop PTSD after going through experiences such as a serious accident, the sudden loss of a loved one, or any terrifying event that leaves a deep emotional impact. But the hopeful news is that specialized trauma-focused therapy can help many people regain a sense of safety and feel in control of their lives again. But psychological trauma does not always remain only as painful memories. Sometimes its effects can change the way we think, feel, and even how we perceive reality. And this leads us to one of the most complex mental disorders. Schizophrenia is a serious mental disorder that affects the way a person thinks, feels, and understands reality. People with schizophrenia may hear voices or see things that are not actually there, or they may hold strong beliefs that do not match reality. However, these experiences feel completely real to the person experiencing them. For example, someone might believe that they are being followed or that they have special powers. But the challenge goes beyond these experiences. Schizophrenia often begins in early adulthood and can affect a person's work, relationships, and everyday life. However, with proper treatment and antipsychotic medications, many people can manage their symptoms and continue living fulfilling lives. However, not all mental disorders cause a person to lose touch with reality. Some of them move a person between two completely different emotional worlds. One of these disorders is bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is known for intense mood swings, where a person experiences periods of mania and depression. During a manic episode, a person may have extremely high energy, feel unstoppable, and make impulsive or risky decisions. But this feeling does not last forever. After that, they may enter a depressive episode, where deep sadness, hopelessness, and a lack of motivation replace that energy. But this is not the end of the story. Although these mood changes can seriously affect a person's life, mood-stabilizing medications and psychotherapy help many people achieve a more balanced and stable life. But sometimes the problem is not only about mood changes. Sometimes emotions themselves become so intense that they can damage a person's relationships and affect the way they connect with others. This is often associated with borderline personality disorder, BPD, a condition known for intense and unstable emotions. People with BPD may experience rapid changes in their emotions. For example, they might feel extremely angry one moment and then suddenly feel deep sadness or anxiety shortly after. But the challenge is not just emotional changes. They may have a strong fear of being alone or abandoned, struggle with relationships, and sometimes act impulsively without thinking about the consequences, such as excessive spending or self-harm. However, this does not mean there is no solution. With treatments such as dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, many people can learn how to better manage intense emotions, control impulsive reactions, and build healthier relationships with others. But not all mental conditions begin with intense emotions. Some of them follow a different path from the earliest stages of brain development. One of these conditions is autism spectrum disorder, ASD, which affects communication and social interaction. People with autism may have difficulties with eye contact, understanding social cues, or keeping a typical conversation going. But that is only one part of the story. Some individuals may engage in repetitive behaviors or develop very deep interests in specific topics. However, these characteristics are not the same for everyone. Because autism is a spectrum, its signs and challenges can range from mild to more significant. But early support and intervention can help each person develop their unique abilities and reach their full potential. But not all mental disorders affect the way we think. Some disorders change the way a person relates to food and their own body. Eating disorders are characterized by intense and unhealthy concerns about weight, body image, and food. In an anorexia nervosa, a person severely restricts their food intake in an attempt to lose weight. But this is not the only type of eating disorder. In bulimia nervosa, a person may consume large amounts of food and then try to compensate through behaviors such as self-induced vomiting or excessive exercise. There is also another type, where a person eats large amounts of food but does not engage in compensatory behaviors afterward. However, all of these disorders can have serious physical and psychological consequences. Fortunately, psychotherapy, nutritional counseling, and in some cases medication can play an important role in recovery and treatment. But when we talk about psychological suffering, one of the most common yet often overlooked disorders still remains major depressive disorder, MDD. Major depressive disorder is not just about feeling sad. It is a condition characterized by persistent sadness, hopelessness, and a loss of interest in activities that were once enjoyable. But its effects go beyond emotions. People with depression may also experience changes in their sleep, appetite, and energy levels. However, depression is treatable. Psychotherapy and antidepressant medications can help many people regain their quality of life and feel like themselves again. But sometimes the problem is not a lack of motivation or sadness. Sometimes the brain has struggled with focus and organization from the very beginning. This is often known as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. People with ADHD often have difficulty staying focused, organizing tasks, and controlling certain impulsive behaviors. But ADHD is not simply about being restless or overly energetic. A person may frequently lose their belongings, struggle with time management, or have difficulty finishing tasks they start. However, with proper diagnosis and treatment, many of these challenges can be managed effectively. But sometimes, the problem is not only ADHD. Sometimes, it is the thoughts that keep entering the mind again and again, without permission. In Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, OCD, a person experiences unwanted thoughts that repeatedly appear in their mind and feel difficult to control. To reduce the anxiety caused by these thoughts, they may feel the need to repeat certain behaviors over and over again. For example, someone may feel they have to wash their hands repeatedly to reduce the anxiety caused by a fear of contamination. But this relief is only temporary. Because of this, the cycle continues to repeat itself and can significantly affect a person's daily life. However, treatments such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and medication can help reduce this cycle and make symptoms much more manageable. But some cycles do not stay only in the mind. Sometimes they turn into dependencies that can be extremely difficult to break. One of these is substance use disorder, SOD. Substance use disorder refers to the compulsive use of drugs or alcohol despite the harmful consequences it may cause. But addiction is not simply a lack of willpower. Today, addiction is recognized as a chronic health condition. However, with psychotherapy, medication, and support groups, recovery is possible. But the final disorder on this list might be the most familiar one. It is a struggle that millions of people silently live with every day. Anxiety disorders involve excessive worry, fear, or anxiety that goes beyond normal levels and begins to interfere with daily life. In generalized anxiety disorder, GADAD, a person experiences constant worry about many things, even without a clear reason. Perhaps the most important thing about all these disorders is this: awareness, early diagnosis, and getting professional help can completely change a person's life. Have you experienced any of these disorders? Please share your thoughts in the comments below this video.